Okay, let's unpack this. The whole idea of a perfect gold standard English, it feels like it's on its way out. But, its ghost still kind of lingers, doesn't it, in boardrooms, classrooms. So today we're diving deep into what it really means to communicate effectively now in a world full of, well, world Englishes. And what does this shift, this move away from one standard towards embracing linguistic diversity mean for you, whether you're learning English, managing global teams, or just trying to understand this interconnected world a bit better? That's our mission for this deep dive. Unpack it all, find some surprising insights.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating, I think, is how much the conversation itself has changed. It's less about finding the single right way to speak English anymore.
Yeah.
The acceptance, the idea that multiple variations are valid, that's really reshaping, well, everything, how we learn, how we communicate globally. And English isn't just spread out geographically, right? It's everywhere in terms of use. Commerce, education, science, diplomacy, it really has become the world's common tongue, for better or worse.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it that way. For so long, the message was clear. Aim for British or American English. That was the target. But you're saying that whole concept is, well, not just old-fashioned, but people are actively pushing back against it. Why? What's behind that pushback?
Well, it's partly a reaction, a necessary one, I think, against that history of linguistic imperialism. Acknowledging that English didn't just politely stay within the UK or the US. It was spread often through colonization, yes, but then it took root. It grew up in these new places. It evolved naturally. So the different pronunciations, the unique grammar, the local vocabulary, they aren't mistakes. They're adaptations. They're signs of the language being alive and used. And the whole point of World English is saying, yes, these are valid. These reflect real identities.
That brings up a really interesting question then. If there isn't one single correct version, how does any language standard even emerge? I mean, don't most big languages have some kind of official body deciding the rules?
Exactly. And that's what's so unusual, almost paradoxical about English. You take Spanish, for instance. They have the Royal Academy, the RAE, a powerful group that literally decides, what's proper grammar, what words get into the dictionary. English. Nothing like that. No central authority. No official stamp of approval, which means it's incredibly free. It changes organically from the ground up. Think about how fast new slang catches on, like those Oxford Word of the Year things that bubble up from Gen Z. They become real words, not because some committee says so, but because millions of people start using them and understanding them. So the whole question of who decides what's correct, it's not an institution. It's the speakers themselves, collectively.
So it's more about being understood, about that linguistic agility, than sticking to some dusty old rule book.
Okay, to make this more concrete, you mentioned English spreading. It's pretty startling, actually, that 88 countries list English as an official or co-official language.
Yeah.
That's way beyond the places we usually think of, like the US, UK, Australia.
Oh, absolutely. Forget just the traditional Anglosphere. We're talking about places like India, Nigeria, Singapore, Belize, huge parts of the Caribbean. And in many of these countries, English sits alongside completely different local languages. It's been there a long time. And critically, it hasn't just stayed static. It's developed its own distinct character, its own flavor in each place.
Yeah.
You find unique literary traditions, famous writers, films, music, all in these specific varieties of English. And why does this happen? Because language and culture are just so deeply intertwined, aren't they? People don't just borrow a language like a tool. They make it their own. They infuse it with their lives, their experiences, their identity. It becomes a mirror of their own cultural character. If you strip that away, is it even really their language anymore?
The Caribbean is such a spectacular example of this, isn't it? With the emergence of Creole languages, Jamaican Creole, for instance. It's this beautiful, vibrant mixture drawing from so many sources, African languages, yes, but also hints of Hindi, German, Chinese, French. Even, it's a linguistic tapestry. And this kind of organic communication shift happens everywhere, sometimes in really unexpected ways. Like, remember that Habibi come to Dubai thing on TikTok? Suddenly, this Arabic word, Habibi, meaning my love or my friend, becomes this global catchphrase. People who don't speak Arabic are using it. It just shows how communication finds its own path, It bubbles up and crosses lines we thought were fixed. Okay, so bringing this all back, we have this dynamic, evolving linguistic landscape. What does this actually mean for you, the listener? For your studies, for your career, for just getting ahead in this increasingly global world?
For students, I think the benefits are huge. Being exposed to different Englishes early on, it does more than just help them understand accents. It builds sensitivity. It makes them better listeners, more adaptable communicators. And perhaps more importantly, it validates their own background in the classroom. Seeing diverse Englishes treated as legitimate helps students feel represented. Their way of speaking isn't wrong, it's just different.
And that connects to what some people are calling the fifth skill in language learning, intercultural competence, or intercultural communication skills. This isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's vital for work, for travel, for simply interacting with people from different backgrounds. Navigating those differences is key.
That's such a crucial point, and it really flips the script for employers too, doesn't it? If you, as a professional, can only understand one specific type of English accent, or if you use jargon only people from your specific background get, well, you're limiting yourself. The real advantage now isn't sounding like a textbook native speaker, it's having that linguistic agility, being able to understand different accents, different ways of phrasing things, bridging those communication gaps. That's the new currency.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I remember a story about an American guy living in Saudi Arabia. He genuinely struggled to order food sometimes because the staff often spoke with Indian or Bangladeshi English accents he just wasn't familiar with. Like, he'd have to pass his phone over for someone else to order for him. It'd been embarrassing, right? And then there's the flip side. I heard about Spanish professionals whose international meetings, all conducted in English, would hit a wall whenever a particular native speaker joined. This person would use really local British slang or idioms, and suddenly the flow was broken for everyone else who wasn't British. These stories really highlight that it's not just non-native speakers who need this intercultural skill. Everyone does. Native speakers maybe especially sometimes.
Right. So if communication itself is changing, what about the gatekeepers? The big language tests, IELTS, TOEFL, they hold so much power over academic and professional futures. Do they need a complete overhaul to reflect this reality?
I think they definitely need to evolve significantly. For listening sections, for example, they absolutely should include a much wider range of accents and dialects from different cultures, get test takers used to hearing variety. And for speaking and writing, maybe the scoring needs to be more flexible, less focused on penalizing variations in pronunciation or grammar that are common in certain world Englishes. And thinking even further ahead, maybe contextualized tests. Imagine if you needed English for a job in Singapore. Perhaps part of the test could assess your familiarity with common features of Singaporean English or Singlish. It makes sense, right? If you're going to live and work somewhere, understanding the local way of speaking is pretty important.
That's a really practical idea. So how should this be taught then? If we agree world Englishes are important, do you dedicate specific lessons to Nigerian English or Indian English? Or is it better to sort of drip feed it into every class? What works best for learners?
It probably depends a lot on the learners and their goals. For students in a general English course, maybe over a longer period, that drip feeding approach works well. You could have, say, one class a month focusing on English from a particular region, integrate some geography, history, culture, make it a whole package. But then you have specific needs. I worked once with a group of Spanish insurance workers. Their main challenge was understanding their IT support team, who were based in India. So for them, we did targeted training focused specifically on understanding common features of Indian English pronunciation and phrasing. It was very direct, very needs-based. So yeah, the best approach often needs tailoring.
This has been incredibly illuminating. Okay, final big question then for you listening right now. What are some concrete things you can actually do starting today to build your confidence and your skills with all these world Englishes? How do you develop that agility we talked about?
Right, the practical steps. Well, the good news is there's a lot you can do. First, just make a conscious effort to expose yourself to different dialects when you're listening or reading. Be curious. When you watch a movie or a show in English, maybe take a second to look up where the actors' accents are really from. And get rid of the idea that there's one American or one British accent. The regional variety within just those two countries is immense. Recognizing that is a big first step. And honestly, use social media. It's a fantastic tool for this. Follow creators from different countries, India, Nigeria, the Philippines, Kenya, wherever, who are posting in English. You'll naturally absorb so many different accents, expressions, ways of speaking, often really authentic everyday contexts. It's great exposure. But the core message really is about empowerment. English is a tool. It's available to anyone, anywhere, for pretty much any purpose. Your voice, your way of using English, it's valid. It's yours. You can and should own it.
So we've really journeyed through this fascinating landscape of world Englishes today. We've challenged that old rigid idea of a single standard, and we've seen just how crucial intercultural communication skills are becoming in our connected world. It's not niche, it's fundamental. So here's something to think about as you go. The English language isn't some static thing owned by a select few. It's alive. It's shaped by billions of conversations every single day, and you're part of that. You're in charge of how you use it. Turn it to your own uses, Explore its richness. Make it work for you.